Hello and welcome to my channel of Trauma Healing and Grow Up with Claudine. Today I have special guests with me in the studio. We are excited to have a group of remarkable guests who will share their unique journey as Black professional in Canada. They will discuss their career journey, the challenge they have faced, how their immigrant background have shaped their growth. We will also explore topics like mental health, navigating workplace barriers, and how we can all work together in a more inclusive and supportive environment. We look forward to hearing their insight and hope that their stories will inspire us and empower us of thinking more deeply about diversity and inclusion. So without taking more time, let's just dive in. I'm starting from my right side with Salim. Salim, how about you tell us about yourself, where you come from, and your career path?
Yeah, I'll just be very brief.
Yeah.
My name is Salim, and I currently work in healthcare. My father is from Mombasa, and my mother is Irish-Scottish background. So my dad, I grew up around a bunch of many Africans in the community in Vancouver, and I realized when I was about 16, that I started having conflict with law enforcement, and I realized that I was being perceived as my African father's son. And this was news to me because I had been around my mom's family most of my life at the time. So this was very interesting and challenging. And so some of these challenges with law enforcement have been something that it's been a theme in my life. And there's been a racialized element of it, definitely. So it's actually quite remarkable that I have wound up working in some of the situations that I have, given some of that barrier that has existed.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you for sharing. How about Alfred? Why don't you tell us about yourself and what you do for a living?
Thank you very much. My name is Alfred, and I do also, work in the healthcare and also in the world of academia. And I was born and raised in Uganda. I came to Canada over 20 years ago, and I have navigated different sectors in terms of for employment. I currently, do also private consultancy work as part of my work, and I do teach. I found it very interesting. When I first arrived in Canada, I think I did all the informal jobs. I did customer services, I did construction, landscaping, being a janitor as a student, just to bridge the gap. I believe that when I was doing that, I was able to have some little money in my pocket, to enable me to pursue my daily demands. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. My next question goes to you, Salim. Do you mind sharing with us about your journey in your professional path? How did you get where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, it's rather convoluted, so I'll try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
But basically, because of some events when I was young, I was prevented from pursuing some of the things that I wanted to do, and some of these things actually related to what I was saying earlier. And I had some legal wranglings that were completely unreasonable, and they inhibited me from going. They actually inhibited my academic pursuits for a long time. So I wasn't able to reactivate my academic pursuits until I was somewhat older. But at that point, I was able to go and re-attend university, then continue on with a master's degree. And this was one thing I really noticed when I was doing that was how a lot of the people who I was in class with had no idea about the kinds of experiences that I'd had, right? And I started to realize that there was in particular, something very worthwhile is that some of the indigenous people that I've worked with through some of the places that I've worked, they could relate to these experiences.
Yeah.
But many of the students who wind up in the places in healthcare or in these various like authority places have no clue. And so when you encounter people in these facilities who think that, oh, that can't be true, that couldn't have been experienced, I realized that of course this could be true. So this has been beneficial, I'd say, in my career path. Having this experiential knowledge has been very helpful because it lets me, because now I work with often with vulnerable people, right? And it makes me attuned to them, even though I might not have their experiences, I understand what they might be like.
Yeah, right. How about you, Fred? How has been your career path like?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, as I hinted, actually, has been a journey. I have navigated different, paths. I've worked for different organizations. Also, I think I was influenced largely because of my background. I came to Canada over 20 years ago as a conventional refugee. So when I came here, I was very, passionate about working and helping the vulnerable populations. And also my life experience here too influenced me too, because when I arrived here, I would say, Victoria or even the island was not that multicultural 20 years ago. So, I felt kind of sometimes lonely. So I thought to join the social and community services because my initial training was in environmental kind of science and technology. And then had to end up doing social work, community services, and I worked for corrections, shelters, and need healthcare, and then of course also academia. Yeah. But I was largely influenced because of my own childhood kind of background. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And my next question goes to you, Salim.
Indeed.
In your career, what kind of challenges, opportunities have you faced as a Black professional being in your field, and how did you navigate them?
Yeah, so challenges. I mean, there's been a great many, but of course, challenges can also be opportunities.
Yeah.
And I know that one in particular, I'm not sure, Alfred might actually be familiar with this scenario, I'm not sure. But I remember that I had an employer, in particular boss, who he was quite problematic in terms of his behaviors. And, while these problems, these behaviors that he expressed, many witnessed them and experienced sort of like the subjugation from it. I was one of the few people who was actually like tried to call him out on this, and that was not disrespectful. Like I was totally respectful in doing it, and I think this incensed him, and so he actually began targeting me, and so I became like I became the number one target for these kinds of things, and I realized that his behaviors, while they were generally, they weren't just directed to people just because of racial or gender reasons, but none of the people that he targeted were of his, he was a white man and none of them were white men. They were all women or all racialized people. And when I realized this pattern, I thought, he doesn't even realize this, right? Yeah, so that was one challenge. I moved on from that place, obviously.
Right. Yeah, how about you, Fred? Have you faced any challenges like that in your career?
Thank you. Yeah, I've had a lot of challenges, I would say, one, as an immigrant moving to Canada and being a person of color, I was always, of course, sometimes seen differently. I had to on most occasions, work twice harder to, convince my, kind of supervisors. And two, as a professional, you find always there are lots of excuses. You have to work hard. One, they will of course bring in the ideas of notions that either your accent or grammar. So you have to work extra hard, to fit in. You have to kind of put in a lot of effort. And also, I had to, empower myself intellectually and professionally, the extent that they cannot doubt who you are. If you talk in terms of credentials, I would place on the table more than who you are, because I realized that as a black man, I had to, if a job requires one to have a bachelor, I must have a master's degree to fit in the competition. Okay, you need to say masters, I must present a PhD, to fit in. So it has been a journey, and now I got motivated to go to school because of that, to kind of navigate this kind of muggy and very challenging terrains, to fit into the job market.
Yeah. And as immigrant as we are, with your experience, each one of you, how did your experiences help with your growth?
Can you repeat that?
As an immigrant, as we are all.
So I'm second, as you know, I'm second generation, but nevertheless.
Yeah, all
still,
second generation,
still,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. How your experience has shaped your growth being in Canada? Your personal growth.
That's a tough one.
You. Yeah, thank you so much. I think I'm not first generation. I'm fresh from Africa.
Yeah.
I think my life experience here shaped my professional calling. I thought I would be in the labs, testing chemicals and soils and so on. But because as an immigrant, I came here and I knew nobody. I was isolated. And I saw also how, the students, the refugees, and asylum seekers, would, kind of struggle. So I was forced to, kind of gain more passion to begin to work with the vulnerable populations. So like I work with refugees, newcomers, immigrants, the homeless population, those with mental health and addictions. Yeah. And because of that background, I also kind of got compelled, to kind of keep on enriching my, professional, academic credentials. Just my experience here, I've always kind of underlooked, so I had to prove myself. Yeah.
We all experience that kind of experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I may, answering that, one small thing is that what I really noticed, because I grew up, I knew many Africans, right, through my dad's groups, and so when I would be like, there's a difference culturally between Africans in general and say Black Americans.
Yes.
And this is like substantially different.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I would be going into scenarios and people would be interpreting me as though that was my cultural background. And I'm thinking, wow, this is so like the notion of when you hear the term African American, it's incorrect because I know I've been around Africans. I'm African Canadian. I wouldn't. Black Americans are different. They don't have much of. There's not the same. They're very different people culturally. So this is. I think this is just really worth. It was something that I really noticed.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
My next question for you, Alfred.
Yes.
What has been your biggest cultural adjustment from you coming from Africa and living here?
Wow, thank you so much, Claudine. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
When of course, I was back home, there are things I would do that were normal. Well, here, They are not normal kind of norms. For example, when I was back home, of course, I'm a very friendly person and touchy and holding people. When I arrived here, my counselor cautioned me that when you are here, you don't even touch kids who, you don't know the parents, like back home, would hold kid, hey, how are you, like kind of stuff, or touch, or hold hands. Here, you don't touch someone's kid, you might can cause issues. So I had to kind of check out that kind of behavior, and also of course, like for example, holding hands here, has a different connotation. Back home, I can hold your hand as a friend. I can hold your hand as a buddy. I can hold your hand as a sister. No, any much, big deal. You say that is kind of, good, positive relationship. But here, when you do that, there's a different social connotation. So I had to, adjust my styles and ways in that way, and also realize that Canadians are very polite people. Sometimes if you're going to engage, interact, and relate, it's very important that you kind of repackage your wordings. I realize here, when I came, they would never tell me no when there's anything that wasn't right. They say, oh, not quite, not quite. Well, where I come from, they say, no, it's done. Yes, it's done.
Yeah.
Here, they're very mindful.
Yeah.
Every word that, a professional who is well tuned, they're mindful of their wordings and feedback they care. So I learned a lot in terms of communication and the norms and conducts about even pointing a finger at you. Back home is very normal, but here it can be seen as assault. Okay, as a form of conflict management. If like I have issue, I can get and beat you up. Back home, slap you a little bit. It's no big deal. You can't do that here. So you had to,
To adjust.
to adjust and learn a lot of stuff.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question, it comes back to employment. Has any of you experienced barriers or find it difficult to advance in your employment, and how did you navigate those issues?
You want to take that one now?
Yes, please. Thank you. I think, it's a very fascinating question, and thank you for that. I must say that I've encountered numerous barriers in advancing, my career or employment for years. Like, you could find sometimes even a person who joins the company after you might even orient or train the person, but that person will be promoted over you. Okay, they provide all forms of flimsy excuses and explanations. So I had to come to terms, and sometimes I was motivated to maybe attain or to get more trainings and skills to compete, or I also kind of respectfully and in a peaceful way leave that employment. Okay, because I know that if I'm in this organization, I will not go beyond some level. So I make sure that, okay, as I'm maybe trying to advance my career in terms of education, and I say if I finish these studies, I'll leave here, I'm going to apply elsewhere, and then you advance. So you have to be strategic.
That's
Work,
right.
yeah. And when you're leaving a job, live on a positive note. Yeah. But always, as a person of color, an immigrant, you always have to invest and work twice harder sometimes than
That's so
other
true.
employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like we have enough opportunities or support for Black professionals in Canada?
Yeah. I would.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
I think, of late, I would say, it's a kind of a double-edged question and answer. I would say the support that is there might be minimal, right? And as a person too, or as an individual, you have to also kind of invest, lots of, your time and efforts to market yourself. Okay, you must market yourself. You must kind of equip yourself with the skills and knowledge and the tools on how to navigate the job market through networking and and also enriching your kind of professional ethics. Yeah, because the work culture here and where I come from is quite different. Yeah, so you have to know about the communication stuff and also search for opportunities. Sometimes networking is a key, but for black or for color, sometimes they face a lot of obstacles. But at the same time, if you're skilled and knowledgeable person of color, you can also make a breakthrough because there are also very many nice and caring Canadians out there. Where when you prove yourself, they will hold your hands and you go through. In my journey, in fact, most people who have opened the doors for me have been 80% of the ladies, mothers, parents, they're always there to mentor you. They will invest. They're very kind of there's patience. They always wanna give you a chance. They want to hold your hands, to tutor you, to mentor you, to nurture you, so that you fit in. So there are nice people out there. If you prove that you're reliable, trustworthy, and dependable.
The opportunities, I think, so there are enclaves. Like, I don't think it's universally true, but there are definitely enclaves where the opportunities exist. For example, like where you and I work right now, the people who are responsible for the hiring, I think they're very attuned to. They're actually, they understand that they want to hire people of diverse backgrounds, and so I think in such a place, I mean, all I have to do is count the numbers right now, and I can tell you that there's a higher amount of representation.
It's quite impressive, actually.
Why? The leadership.
Exactly. It's the leadership. Exactly. That's precisely it. And part of that's informed because that leadership understands. They have an understanding of these things from a personal perspective.
Yes. Personal experiences.
Yeah, definitely. And my next question, I want to ask you, like the three of us coming from a healthcare field, dealing with mental health and addiction issues with the clients we see regularly. But ourselves, like how do we deal with mental health as Black professionals? And what do you think we have enough support out there that support Black communities dealing with mental health issues?
That's a tough one to unwrap.
Okay, I can start. Thank you so much. Mental health is always key, to everything. And I think how we manage mental health differs. Every individual manages differently. For myself, I'm very active, outdoor, like make sure that I hit the gym, I do sports, run, bike, a lot of self-care. Very important. Self-care, physical activities, gotta sleep good, feel good, and take care of yourself. That is how you manage your mental health. And also, you need also a good support systems around you. Those you can go and debrief with when you encounter difficult kind of engagements or difficult clients, how someone to debrief with, also very supportive. And about support for Black community in that area of mental health, I don't think we have much in where we are, but though I know
nothing specific.
I know that under the African heritage, we had kind of committees like for families, and that could to some degree listen, but not very effective and not very well resourced, or both in terms of the money and also human resources. Okay, and I must say, and finally also from the African context where we come from, things like mental health is not talked about much, and if you have issues, you don't go to counselors. You go to your peer or your family, your auntie, your uncle, your best friend. You debrief, and they give you, solutions on the way forward. So it's a cultural also barrier. Yeah, some might even be having issues, but they won't reach out for support because it's a stigma.
Yeah, there's a stigma around that from Black community in general. Yeah. My next question to you, in your experience, how do you feel race influences how you interact with people in your workplace, either if it's your clients or your work coworkers,
Yeah. Okay. So
negatively or positively?
I mean, it's like many things. It's got pros and cons. But I would say that in general, I would certainly with colleagues, that my experience like the vast majority of colleagues has been good in that regard.
Yeah.
It's non-problematic, with a few exceptions, of course. When it comes to clients, things might be a bit different. And I know that in dealing with some clients, you can pick up on a vibe, and when there's a sense that, oh, you don't know what you're talking about or whatever, and you can pick up on that, and quite often when this happens, I'll actually hear something from somebody else, like another client will come to me and tell me, oh, this person, this is their opinion, or this is their thoughts about this, and I thought, yeah, I kind of had a feeling, and that's okay, right? Like as long as they don't present something to me that's like explicitly problematic, I'll be respectful. You can go speak to somebody else if you'd like,
Options.
yeah, right. But there's a line that can't be crossed, and it rarely is crossed, but it does happen.
How about you, Fred?
Review your question.
Yeah, sorry? Oh, the question I'm asking, how do you feel race plays a role of how you interact with your clients or with your coworkers, colleagues?
Yeah, that's a very common kind of experiences we always encounter in our work or jobs we do. Like sometimes even the clients that might be assigned to you, some might be even reluctant to to engage you. They may think you are incompetent or not able to perform the job based on your based on your identity. Yeah. So
or they'll project prejudices towards you for no particular reason.
yes, yeah, based on your who you are. They might think because of who you are incapable of doing a job. So what I do, I always the first few minutes I try to make the clients comfortable and explain who I am and what I can provide. And some open up and are willing to be supported. Others will judge you based on who you are, your accent, your color, and so on. So that is there too. Even some staff members might wanna, your fellow colleagues, wanna undermine you, based on your identity. That is there.
So there was an occasion where there was a client that had something similar happen. This client did not want to speak to somebody with an accent, and said, "Oh, I'm not racist or whatever." And so, ironically, the person got sent my way, but of course, I've got the Canadian accent. I thought, oh no, it's a good thing we're not video conferencing here.
I think each one of us have that kind of experience whereby our accent either become an issue or people are just curious to know where we come from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so my next question is a broad question. What do you think Canadian society need to do to improve creativity and both in and reduce racial discriminations in professional field?
So to improve inclusivity in the
And reduce discriminations for black professionals.
Yeah, thank you, Claudine. This is a very rich question, I must say. And I must say, if you look back some years ago, I think different organizations are trying a lot to, to make a contribution to this concern and all this problem. I think most places you find right now issues about diversity, equity, and inclusivity are very central, and even the departments that are there. In fact, even our own organization right now, there's a very kind of singular department for that, for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And realize that even every employer in Canada, where I've seen, I've worked or done some work as a consultant, they try to do lots of training, to enlighten people about culture, multiculturalism, about cross-cultural communication. So from the theoretical aspect of things, like the theories, I think there's a lot of work being done. But from the practical pieces, they're trying, but not quite there yet. Sometimes like a person might have that kind of theory on paper, but not being implemented. Okay, you say that you're being inclusive, and while you're hiring, you are putting very kind of high barriers for those who are either immigrants, refugees, newcomers, who are coming from historical traumatized backgrounds like the indigenous communities and others. Okay, because we might talk of equity, because equality, we're not equal, but we can foster equity whereby even the one that is short can be placed on a higher table to be at the same height with that one who is tall. That's equity. And then inclusivity is how do you engage. So it's different, not just bringing, but also involve that person in the daily engagements, interactions, and also contributions in terms of work, ideas, and so on. So in general, the country is trying. I would encourage that maybe in schools, they're really talking about diversity, equity, inclusivity.
The challenge is, Alfred, of course, is that there's pushback coming for DVI, right? I mean, you see this politically, like in the United States, for example. There's a lot of pushback against it, and this is a challenge because I agree that it's an important thing to do, and yet some people identify it as actually a problem. Like the DVI is a problem.
What is DVI?
Diversity, inclusivity.
DI. It's true. There's a lot of pushback even in the States, and even here. Though in Canada, like in BC, I would say those who oppose do it quietly behind the scenes because they shy away from coming in the open to oppose openly. It's more progressive, like over here, compared to other parts of North America. But
especially the West Coast.
West Coast is very progressive, and I would say every single step counts, even a small step. It counts. So let's be hopeful, and I think maybe let the government of Canada, place more, resources and efforts in trying to tackle, this nightmare.
Something that I think that's beneficial to everyone is actually all of this stuff around truth and reconciliation. I think that if organizations actually embody that, not only do First Nations benefit, but diverse populations benefit too, because it brings an understanding to, like, once you start really realizing that it's not just about, putting certain signs up or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You actually have to live it.
Thank you for that. In fact, I had a workshop, training last week, and we're doing trauma-informed kind of, training, and more of indigenous trauma-informed practices. And one of the indigenous, trauma-informed professional actually, brought up different concepts about trauma-informed practices. And we realize as participants that, in fact, what they are talking about as the indigenous, professionals, in fact, benefit everybody. When you dissect the different, trauma-informed theories and concepts and frameworks and ways to approach this, to, identify, dissect, and analyze issues. So you are spot on there.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, and like I remember, for example, one employer who would, after Truth and Reconciliation Day, was wearing the orange shirt for a week after, right? Meanwhile, he had been responsible for firing the only 2 Indigenous people who had worked there, and he had unjustly fired them, right? And so, like, it's easy to wear the shirt. Yeah. It's another thing to do the right thing. And I've just come back to my father. He was a forester, and he worked with First Nations up and down the island, and it's very interesting how he was their primary forester, and it was a shift, right? Because they were used to dealing with foresters who were maybe white, and they were much more likely to trust my dad because they realized, oh, there's a bit of a kinship here. We have an understanding, right? So there's bridges to be built there.
And just to add on how to improve that, I would think, the government should invest lots on the young generation in schools, from kindergarten, in school, university, the next generation. Sometimes it's a challenge to transform and tame, the older generations.
To change beliefs is hard, but set them is easier.
So you can try, but let's invest more so that, invest in the young ones. Lots of hope.
Yeah, I totally would agree with that sentiment, that thought.
Well, I just want to thank you for coming and sharing your own experience being Black professionals in Canada. It's quite interesting to see that each one of us has experienced some sort of challenges, but that's what built us to be here today. It's not easy when you're studying, but by going through what you're going through eventually gets you to where you want to go. And thank you for sharing the story with us. I hope we inspire people.
Thank you for inviting us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, and thank you for our viewers today. I hope by hearing from our guest today, you learned something about how Canadian Black professionals, they faced a lot of challenges, but with those challenges, it comes resilience, and that builds them to build a better community. And that's what we are talking about here, building legacies and having better communities. So, thank you so much, and have a blessed day.
Thank you.